Hello everyone, it's David again. I am here, Babylon 5, Season 2, Episode 11, titled All Alone in the Night. We start off with this one where Delenn is telling Lanier that she has been summoned to appear before the Great Council to discuss her status. We all know that Homegirl is sadly going to have to take a pay cut because she's no longer going to be on the ruling council. But Lanier, ever the faithful follower of Delenn, he doesn't care. He is going to go regardless. We zip on in, and Sheridan wants to investigate ships missing in Sector 92 because he wants to maintain his flight pay. And yes, that is a thing. A friend of mine who's a buddy of mine in nursing school, his dad was a 2 and then later was promoted to 3-star general in the Air Force. And one of the things that he got flight pay. Eventually, though, because of some of the irregular tracings on his EKG, he had to give up his flight status. And so he lost his flight pay. So yes, that is a thing. We zip on in, and a Narn Frazi heavy fighter is destroyed, and its pilot is taken captive. Dun, 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 dun. And we're going to cue on the entrance to this episode. Guest stars, we have Nick Corey as Lieutenant Ramirez. His real name, I should say real name, his birth name, or anyway, is Jesus, and he goes by Jesus Garcia, JSU. Can anyone who speaks Spanish point that one? Is that a common nickname for someone named Jesus? It's the first I've heard of it. But he was born October 6, 1963. He is an actor, director, and a minister. And I thought, well, a minister what? And it's a movement of spiritual inner awareness. I thought, oh boy, here we go. And it basically teaches transcendental meditation to students. It's a kind of Hindu tantric kind of you get someone ahead of you who kind of after a while working with you as an instructor, they come up with a sacred mantra that you will repeat over and over and over and over and over again to go up and down various levels of meditation until hopefully you attain nirvana or spiritual enlightenment, or whatever floats your boat is what you'll attain. And that sounds kind of like what this group is. Controversial. Some people have likened it to a cult, but a lot of people will refer to a lot of the New Age movement as cult or a cult-like behavior. So I haven't read that much into it to determine what I have an opinion on it. Sure, why not? Whatever floats your boat. Just basically research it and come to your own conclusion. Now, in case you're wondering why I'm looking up at the top of my ceiling, my youngest cat, who's about 4 months old, he has successfully climbed to the top. Oh, no, wait, now he's at the bottom. To the top of the curtains that are up near the ceiling. So that's why I'm looking up at the sky. But now I see he's back there, and he is literally right behind. Now he is actually sniffing the camera. If you touch that, Daddy's going to... No, don't touch that. There you go. Good kitty. Sorry, he was sniffing the camera, and he was doing the paw forward like he was going to lean on top of the camera. And I'm like, oh boy. All of a sudden, you guys would have seen my ceiling. Anyway, back on down to here. We have Marshall Teague as the Narn Talon. And he will appear in several more episodes. Kind of as a bodyguard, all-around bodyguard. And he was born April 16th of 1953. He starred in the movie The Rock. It's about where terrorists take over the island of Alcatraz. And Armageddon, where a bunch of rednecks prevent an asteroid from slamming into the Earth. That's basically my take on that. Robin Sachs as Hedren, he unfortunately passed away at the age of 61 from a heart attack, which is very unusual. Was born in the UK, died in LA. So sadly to say, he died at the age of 61. My dad died almost at the age, I think it was 60 or 60, almost 61. And he died also from a heart attack. My dad was a 5-pack-a-day smoker at one point, which is why. I don't know if Mr. Sachs was, but jumping on down to Mr. John Vickery as Naroon. He is age 71. He's been on B5 and Star Trek, played in multiple roles. And then we have Robert Foxworth is returning as General William Hague. I've covered him before, so I'm not going to cover him on this one. And we zip on in. Lanier announces that he is going with Delenn, and he's already packed his bags, and he's borrowed a fly. Evidently, these Minbari flyers can only seat one person. So, I guess he can't, like, sit on the countertops or something. But anyways, Sheridan departs, and he's got 3 escorts with him. And he's supposed to meet General Hague, but he says, oh, don't worry, I'll be back before the general gets here. As we zip on in, Lanier and Delenn park on board the Minbari cruiser that houses the Grey Council. And Delenn says, you're going to have to wait here. Only a few acolytes and the Grey Council itself are permitted beyond this point. And he basically says, okay, I'll wait here. And she goes, you don't have to stick around for this. And he goes, yep, where you're going, I'm going. And she goes, okay. And she walks in and he says, until later, Setai Delenn. Now, was that meant as a kind of a booster up for Delenn, knowing what she's going in, or was that meant as a slap in the face to the Grey Council? I think of a little bit of both. I don't know how much the Grey Council monitors or what their security camera status is like, if they're, watching from all the corners and they have listening devices planted throughout, how much of that is going to reach the Grey Council itself, or if that was just meant as a bolster up for Delenn. I tend to, I think it's more of a bolster up for Delenn. To kind of, bucker up there, little buckaroo. Don't worry about it. Just something you've wanted and worked and dreamed for all your life is about ready to get yanked from you, but don't worry. You'll be later made a president of an interstellar alliance with your husband. Oh, wait. That hasn't happened yet. Sorry. Okay. We're going on here, and all of a sudden, this ship leaves hyperspace and commences an attack on Captain Sheridan's happy little fleet. Mini fleet, I should say. All but Lieutenant Ramirez's ship is destroyed. His ship is heavily damaged and radiation's at terminal levels, but he manages to program his ship to get back on to the hyperspace beacon and get back to Babylon 5. However, Captain Sheridan's ship was destroyed. However, he was managed to eject. And now we find out that that was pretty much by design. Because as we all know, he and the Narn Talon were taken on board a group of people called the Streibs, S-T-R-E-I-B''S. If you don't remember much about them, I remember some things about them come into a little bit of controversy. The overall $64,000 question is, are the Streibs related to the Shadows? I've come across some information that says yes and other information that says no. Supposedly, J. Michael Straczynski said in an interview that the Streibs were neither related to the Shadows or to the Drakh. They were their own complete separate entity. And some information that says Galen said that he saw the Streibs, and I think it's the Wirt, the Shadow Surgeons, they're called, and the Drak, and that they were all together on Zahadum right before it went kablooey. So, if any of you have any information one way or another, go ahead and put that in the comment section below. If it does, I kind of in some ways hope that they are their own entity, because evil is not just licensed unto one entity of the shadows, just as good is not licensed into one entity of the Vorlons. We have good Minbari, we have evil Minbari, we have good humans, we have evil humans. And so I tend to believe that the Streibs are their own little entity. We get on over there, and Ivanova greets General Haig, and General Haig is like, "Where's Sheridan?" And she's like, "Well, he's running a little bit late." Well, he's not like him to be late, especially since he knew I was coming. So they make their way on up to CNC to try and figure out where Sheridan is. Sheridan wakes up on the Streib ship. And I put a little note in here, are they related to the Drak surgeons at all? And I said in my own notes, or as I was writing information down, I said doubtful, because then the Drak would have had a homeworld after Zahadum's destruction. They wouldn't have needed to co-opt the Centauri. Unless they're whole, and there's also that theory of they were just running around to, because their gods, the shadows, were destroyed and taken away from them without any rhyme or reason as far as they're concerned. Why not destroy the homeworld and the gods of your enemy races? So, depends on which, I guess, you subscribe to. We zip on over, and lo and behold, Delenn's just been told that she's been stripped as Setai. Well, she wants to appear before the Great Council and discuss her role as ambassador. So they said, sure, why not? You can make a statement before the council. We zip on over, and sure enough, Lieutenant Ramirez's Star Fury arrives at Babylon 5. He had made a bet on who was going to win the World Series, and as he's dying, he says, "Hey, Doc," because he made a bet with Dr. Franklin and Mr. Garibaldi on who was going to win the World Series. And Dr. Franklin's like, conserve your strength. And he says, looks like I'm not going to be able to enjoy your 30 credits that he had made from the debt. And then all of a sudden, that was my cat, by the way. He evidently decided something was moving near the... Kitty, stop that. Near the pole where I've got the camera set up. So that's what that was. Wasn't an earthquake. It was just a kitten. Nope. Just a kitten. Just this little earthquake right here. This is Pasika. He's 4 months old, roughly. He's going to go in tomorrow to the veterinarian to get his booster shots and to see when he can go in and get fixed. Yes, we're going to get you fixed so that you don't make any unwanted babies. You want to say hi to the camera? Say hi to the camera? Say hi. Hi. Oh, are you camera shy now? Okay. Now, stop playing with the camera stand, okay? And let Daddy finish his very important work. His tail is going in and flapping the back of my side here. Anyway, back to Babylon 5, shall we? Sheridan wakes up on the Streib ship, and he and a Drazi, start to fighting. Unfortunately, the Drazi falls on his own little fighting stick or whatever it was and ends up impaling himself. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, whoosh, we hear, and here's a Narn that has something implanted on his head. We know it's Talon, and Talon is wielding a big sword. Well, crap. And here is Sheridan, and all he's got is this long pipe with no edges on it or anything. So, as we all know, the Streibs go from world to world and collect, likely candidates for invasion. And so they just go on, zap or pick up one or two people that they think might be invasion worthy, and they go ahead and they kidnap them and just put them through medical and psychological experiments. So, unfortunately, I'm going to zip on here. Let me try and reclaim my place as to where I was before the cat interrupted me. Delenn appears before the Great Council to plead her case to remain as ambassador. And sure enough, wouldn't you know it, but gosh darn it, Naroon is revealed as her replacement. Now, wait a minute. Delenn called 3 from each caste. Now, this is the first time that the worker caste is mentioned, because we all know that there were 3 castes, but remember, they started off as 2 castes under the pilot episode, as well as the first roughly season and a quarter, I guess, would be right about now. This is the first time the worker caste is actually mentioned. Now, this gives the military caste unprecedented power. And she says, now each of the castes control 1/3 of their forces. Okay. So between the 2 of them, I guess they control 2/3 of the forces. And, well, as they say in Mother Russia, half a loaf of bread is better than none. I guess 2/3 is even better than half a loaf of bread. Anyway, however, Naroon, he is more than happy to send Delenn back to Babylon 5, only he wants her to stay there and don't come back, because she's an affront to the purity of our race. Now, as we all know, there's no pure anything, and as we all know, Delenn is a child of Valen, and that Valen was, in fact, or later, actually, becomes, or we find out is Commander Jeffrey Sinclair. So she has a little bit of human DNA in there, which is probably why she was so easily able to grow human features. But Naroon thinks that their race is pure, as they have been for the last 1,000 years, so he thinks. So just go over there and stay there where you can't be a pest anymore. Talon, zip on over, wakes up and he starts talking to Sheridan after Sheridan whacked him a few good times and broke a few ribs. And I can tell you, as somebody who used to work as a nurse on a respiratory unit, and I've taken care of people who've had multiple broken ribs, the last thing they want to do is talk to you, but, you know, what the hell. It's science fiction, not science fact. Delenn, we zip on back, ends up wanting to leave and offers to let Lanier go to avoid shame, and he refuses. Now, is he refusing because he secretly loves her at this point or not? I don't know if how quickly Minbari fall in and out of love, or, because remember, his statement was, I'm in love with Delenn. No, not the way you think about it. A purer, more selfless kind of love. Okay, exactly what you implying, homeboy. Anyway, does he love her at this point or not? Or does it still continue to grow on, Does it still have to grow on him a little bit more? Sure enough, we zip on up to CNC, and General Haig recalls the Agamemnon back to Babylon 5. Now, if you remember, Agamemnon was the guy who commanded the Greek forces during the Trojan War, or supposed to have been. We're not sure exactly how much of that is myth and how much is legend. But, anyway, that's who contemporary Greek mythology says commanded the Greek forces. Anyway, Sheridan ends up sleeping, and he sees a dream of Ivanova. And then she says a few things, then Michael Garibaldi pops up and he says a few things, and then Kosh, you have always been here. Heavily ma'amed, you have always been here. Does this begin to kind of signal Kasha's interest in Sheridan, or has he always had, knowing what Valen knows or what Jeffrey Sinclair knows, he knew that that Sheridan was going to be big during this final Shadow War. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've had people following Sheridan around from the get-go. Or maybe we'll find out during the next Babylon 5 series, because, spoiler alert, the pilot episode has at least a scene or two or more from Sheridan's house. Yeah, you heard it here first. Shh. Delenn's Minbari flyer is informed of Sheridan's missing starfear. She asks for details to be sent to her, and all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, I know these people. So all of a sudden here she calls CNC and saying, "Yep, we know exactly who these people are and where they're located. Would you like the information?" "Well, sure, Delenn. Send us all the info you got." Before then, I had, as they were, the dream was happening with Kosh, all of a sudden a doorway kind of pops up a little bit, and Sheridan makes, and I had heard the quote before and I couldn't remember where, but it's "give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world," is the actual correct quote, and it was from Archimedes. So, anyway, sorry my cat's chewing my finger here. The Streib ship approaches their homeworld. They think, "Oh, yay, we're back and we're home," and all of a sudden, wham, it gets hit by the EAS Agamemnon. They fired a shot and hit him pretty good amidship. A brief firefight engages, and that gives Talon and Sheridan the time and ability to escape using one of their own life pods of the Streibs. So Sheridan gets back, and he is in Babylon 5's med lab, and all of a sudden, as he's leaving med lab, he turns to his left, and who is there but Ambassador Kosh? Now, he thinks Kosh is coming to him in a dream, until Kosh all of a sudden exclaims, "You have always been here," and then turns around, and Sheridan's like, "Wait a minute, how the hell does he know about that?" Now, I'm wondering if he knows about that just from Valen, or, because at first I thought, man, the Vorlons must have an incredibly long telepathy range if they can reach Babylon 5 to the Streib ship. And then, of course, as I was thinking about it, I thought, well, no, because if Valen went back in time, or Jeffrey Sinclair, and told the Vorlons everything he knew, well, that could include this episode right here. So maybe that's how Sheridan knew. But anyway, Kosh says, "You have always been here. Heavily memmed. Commit that one to memory." We zip on in, and General Haig goes to debrief Sheridan. They figured out that Psychor is calling the shots back at home, and he is hoping that Babylon 5 is far enough away that Sheridan can move without being noticed. So, the next scene goes, Ivanova comes in, and there's Franklin and Garibaldi, and they're all meeting in Sheridan's quarters. It appears to be after hours, and Sheridan uses the same bug scrambling device so that hopefully if anybody's listening in to Captain Sheridan's quarters, whatever they'll get at will be absolute garbage. So, and Sheridan starts to basically say, "Hey, things aren't going the way they should be going back home. We think Psychor is calling the shots." And, sorry, my cat is licking my arm, and so I'm trying to figure out what the hell he's doing. So, anyways, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm sure you're probably very happy to note that most of my comments are much shorter due to the interference of a feline, and I'm sure a lot of you are saying, "Dude, why didn't you just shut the damn door and lock them up outside?" Well, then do you want to sit here for the next 30 minutes listening to my cats scratching on the door and howling outside? Or would you just be content with them once every 30 or so episodes tipping the camera over onto its side? But anyways, I hope you all have a good rest of your day. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Mwah. See, this is my buddy. You gonna say hi or no? You don't even... Oh, there you are. See?